Hi friends, you are watching Art and Purulia. I am Torit Mahato, a painter by passion. Now that after the series of drawing for absolute beginners, we are equipped with the knowledge, experience and practice of drawing using graphite pencils, colored pencils and pastels, I think we are ready to jump into traditional accepted pure painting mediums like watercolor, oil and acrylic. We'll start this journey with watercolors. This series will be named Watercolor for Beginners. I have explained in detail the material requirement, various techniques, uses of brushes, and lots of theory, including color theory, in my previous videos. I will mention the links in the description. I would urge you to please go through them first. It will be much easier to understand this series thereafter. How I intend to approach this topic is, we'll see the materials in brief, then we'll see various techniques one by one. We'll talk on some finer tips also. The aim will be to learn the ropes slowly in a methodical manner while using the paints, not much of theory. The secret of success of watercolor painting is to work boldly and with confidence. The beauty of watercolor is that while a underconfident and cautious approach only results in a weak, dry and overworked painting, if you are relaxed and loose in your approach, you will be delighted to find that very often the paint does much of the work for you and you achieve a spectacular painting by itself. Sometimes the most interesting and beautiful effects are achieved through a combination of design and accident in fact. Let's see the materials in short. One of the advantages of watercolor is that it requires few materials. All you need is a small selection of brushes, paints and papers and a jar of water, and you are ready to paint. Paints. In the beginning, a set of 12 colors in pan or tube form is good enough. These sets generally contain a cool and warm shade of all the primary colors red, blue and yellow. In addition, 2 greens, 2 browns, black and white. At this point itself, you must realize that never use the white color, except if you are painting on a colored paper. For white, the white of the paper is kept unpainted. It's always a good idea to invest in professional grade watercolor paints from the beginning. You will find that the colors become less muddy with professional grade than with student grade. And let me tell you, muddy colors are the worst nightmares for a watercolor artist. Paper. Watercolor paper comes in 3 different types: hot pressed, not hot pressed or cold pressed, and rough. Hot pressed paper has a smooth surface that doesn't have much tooth, that is the bumpiness and texture found in rougher papers. I prefer not to use this type of paper for watercolor as it tends to not hold water and pigment in place while it dries. I prefer cold pressed because it has a nice toothy texture, perfect for soaking up strokes and holding applied paint in place. It's not too toothy as rough paper can tend to be, which makes it difficult to create smooth strokes. Another important note about watercolor paper is its thickness, indicated by weight. This is measured in both pounds per rim and grams per square meter. I think any paper less than 140 pound or 300 grams per square meter is too light because it becomes wavy when paint dries. Brushes. A common mistake beginners make when starting in watercolor is buying brushes that are too small. A large, good quality brush is better than several small brushes. It should hold plenty of paint for laying large washes and also come to a fine point for painting fine details. It's also essential that your watercolor brushes be able to hold their form and flexibility when wet. You want brushes that, when loaded up with water and pigment, can lift and rebound easily between strokes. The best types of watercolor brushes are made from sable hair. They are a bit expensive, but in the long run, they even out in the costing because they are long lasting and the fine quality of work it helps producing. A few more materials that you will require are an HB graphite pencil to create a faint sketch, a high polymer eraser, few paper towels, a big enough palette and 2 jars of water. One jar to rinse out all the paint from the brush and another jar to load up the brush before grabbing a different color. Prior knowledge of color theory and composition. You must have good idea about color theory, the fundamentals of primary, secondary and tertiary colors, and the way the colors are used in complementary, split complementary, analogous and other schemes. Also, you should be aware of composition tricks like rule of the third. For understanding the color theory and composition, you may like to visit my videos on color theory and drawing techniques. What are the basic watercolor painting techniques? With watercolor, there are mainly two different ways of applying paint, wet on wet and wet on dry. It's important to know the difference between these two as they provide very different results. Wet on wet. Wet on wet is the technique of applying wet paint to a wet surface to create a soft diffused edge or a bleed. This method is great when building from light to dark, adding darker pigment to a lighter surface and creating a soft blend and smooth transitions between colors. Wet on dry. Wet on dry is the technique of applying wet paint to a dry surface. This could mean applying paint directly onto the paper or applying wet paint on top of already dried sections of paint. You will use this method when you want to give a subject hard, clean edges or add dimensions and depth with layers. Now let's see how to train ourselves and develop the essential skills. Till now we have seen the materials and techniques of watercolors, but how do we acquire the skills of controlling the paint application to make a painting? Initially, we will begin with developing muscle memory and familiarizing with strokes that will apply onto our artworks. Then we'll start with painting with cool colors, then move on to warm colors and mixed palettes. The stage 1 will be understanding the colors and basic techniques. Today in this video, our aim will be to get to know the basic characteristics of the colors and brushes and do some basic exercises. Let's understand how the paint behaves on adding water or other colors. I'll divide the process into several steps. My request will be spend some time in practicing each step. You may take a day or at least half a day to understand each step. Do not jump the steps. Step 1. Let's learn how to progressively lighten a single color. Before applying any paint to paper, always make sure your brush is fully soaked in water. Swish the brush around in your clean water cup and swipe the tip across the rim of the glass 2 or 3 times to get rid of any excess water. Take a size of 5 or 6 round brush. Load up your brush with a strong color like Prussian blue or alizarin crimson. To do this, roll the belly of the brush in the paint 3 or 4 times and coat the hairs in thick pigment. Apply the first swatch to the paper. Then take the brush back and forth in a parallel or zigzag motion until the painted area is roughly a square of about half a square inch. Using the belly or width of your round brush will cover a larger area much faster than using just the tip. Then swish the brush back and forth 2 or 3 times in your dirty water cup to release some pigment before the next swatch. The more vigorously you wash off the brush, the more paint you will remove. For this exercise, you want to retain some paint. So don't be too thorough and always swipe your brush across the rim of the cup or even dab it on a paper towel to get rid of excess water. Do this before and after each swatch so the row of swatches go from dark to light. Step 2. Learn wet on wet. For this, we'll see the most simple color combination of color mixing, monochromatic. Add variations to the piece with shade and tone by lightening your base hue with water, darkening it with black or using it in full saturation by picking up lots of pigment on your brush. This color scheme can be quite striking with the right composition. Remember, you never add white to lighten any color. Just add some water or lift off the wet pigment using a tissue or moist brush. It works like a charm. Start with applying one swatch, maybe a thick amount of Prussian blue with a touch of black mixed in it to make it midnight blue. Once that first swatch is finished, rinse your brush to remove most of the pigment. So what's left on your brush is a pale blue wash. Now start away from your first swatch and work the brush towards it. Touching it with just the tip of the pale wash, and watch the colors explode into one another. Make sure to work quickly enough so that the colors are still wet and can bleed into one another. You can try the same thing with some more shapes and create an abstract piece of art. You can start from the top left or right corner and work your way down. It's also important with abstracts to stay loose and not overthink your next moves. Step 3. Now we'll draw curves and circles. This will help us learn how to use the fine point of the round brush for a thinner line and get used to using our arm to help create steady lines. To start, load up the size 6 brush with water and paint. Make sure the brush is relatively vertical with the tip of the brush pointed down and the end of the brush about 75 to 90 degrees away from the paper. This will focus the fine tip of the brush so that you can achieve a nice thin line. With your brush in this position, start outlining a couple of different sized C curves and circles. Move your brush around the entire shape by moving your arm and wrist, keeping your fingers grasp of the brush handle stable and relaxed. Pivot from your bent elbow so your forearm is steady, rolling your wrist around the circle. You can rotate the paper as you work if you need to for a better angle. If you move your fingers on the brush, changing your grip as you trace it around the shape, your lines will tend to be shakier and you won't be able to control the amount of pressure you are applying. With added pressure, the hairs will fan out, creating a wider stroke. For these shapes, you want a crisp, clean, smooth line. Practice getting used to the form of circles and creating steady outlines with your arm until you feel comfortable. If your lines are looking unsteady, don't worry. This takes some practice, but remember to rely on your arm. Next, we are going to practice how to achieve an even blend throughout an entire shape. Begin by outlining a circle using your brush. Try not to linger or go too slowly as you will want the outline to be wet when you move paint into the middle of the shape. Next, working quickly, grab a little water on your brush. Then with your brush tilted to about 35 degrees angle from the paper surface, drag it along the inner edge of the outline and into the middle area of the circle. Continue this to create a smooth blend throughout the shape. Make sure you are doing this quickly so that the shape stays wet when you paint the next circle. If you don't act rapidly between laying down the outline and applying color to fill in the shape, you will get unwanted hard lines, an obvious line or contrast between the outline and the rest of the shape. Once your first circle is done, wash your brush off quickly and completely and load up with just water. We are going to add a neighboring circle to create a bleed using wet on wet. Bring your loaded brush to your paper and outline and fill in a circle of plain water next to your first circle, making sure not to touch the two shapes just yet. Once your second circle is fully wet, take the point of your brush and increase the size of your second circle by outlining it wider and closer to that first filled in blue circle you have just painted. Eventually, let the two shapes kiss. If your first circle is still wet or damp, you should see an explosion of color blossoming into the new wet circle. This is called bleeding. This method works best when the two colors that are touching contrast strongly with each other. So the circle with just water in it is either bleeding a bloom of lightning water into the darker turquoise circle, or turquoise is bleeding into the circle with just water, adding a little burst of color. Add more neighboring circles and watch the colors explode and bleed. Keep in mind that too much overlapping will create muddiness. When your two shapes are about to touch, make sure they barely come into contact. Color variation. From monochromous scheme, now let's move on with more colors. We'll use an analogous color scheme. The analogous color scheme uses adjacent colors on the color wheel, so the changes between hues is more subtle. The color palette creates a serene and harmonious effect. I've chosen to paint using the range from blue to green and yellow green. I've used cobalt blue and lemon yellow to create a more vibrant eye-catching green. Now we'll make another abstract piece using the range of two colors by bleeding method wet on wet. Don't be intimidated by the explosion of colors. Have fun with it. A lot of unexpected surprises can happen when you are just playing and practicing. Get used to how your brushes work to form basic shapes and take note of color balance and different mixtures and how they work together. You will thank yourself later for this practice. If your shapes are looking wonky or oddly shaped because you are rushing to paint, remember that this practice and refinement will come with time. Now next step, straight lines and triangles. We will apply the same technique to paint straight lines and triangles using different stroke widths. We will start with just lines. Try them out in different angles. Be slow, especially if you have shaky lines. Just as you drew circles, you will create a thin line by pointing the tip of the brush straight down with the handle pointed to the sky and a light pressure that doesn't spread the tip. To gain confidence with painting straight lines, practice painting steady lines by creating triangles. Start with just outlines of triangles first, then after a few of these, paint fill-in triangles. Remember to move your arm for steady outlines and use the belly of the brush to fill in shapes quickly. Try out different sizes and widths, lighter and darker triangles, and so on to get comfortable with the shape and to develop muscle memory. We'll paint with an analogous color combination using warm colors. We'll use red, yellow and orange. On the color wheel, warm colors start with the primary color yellow and go all the way to red violet. One half of the wheel is considered warm while the other half colors are cool. In contrast to cool colors, warm colors are vibrant and bold. They combine the feeling of fire and excitement and can be overwhelming if used excessively. So, for this piece, think of ways you can tone down the intensity by using lighter values of the warm colors. I am using the analogous color palette ranging from cool red, that is crimson, to cool yellow, that is lemon yellow, instead of scarlet lake, which is warm red, and gambos, which is warm yellow. This is another way to help soften the colors. For a composition containing lots of triangles, the smaller round tip brushes like size 1 or 2 are best to move around the tight corners. Stay loose and paint using the wet on dry technique to layer triangles. Paint one set of triangles, wait for them to dry, then only paint the next set. Again let all of them dry and the next set. You will achieve crisp triangles without any bleeding. Now with the same techniques we will compose a piece with more detailed shapes, hexagons. Let's start by outlining hexagon shapes, sketching lightly so the pencil lines won't show through your paint layer. Outline 6 sides for each hexagon and vary the sizes so that there is a movement. Place each hexagon directly next to its neighbor with a small gap in between them. The closer the shapes are, the more detailed and complex the piece will appear. Avoid using a ruler, draw freehand. Lines drawn using ruler looks too mechanical. Once you are happy with the placement of your hexagons, you can start sketching triangles or cubes with each hexagon. Draw lines from each corner of the hexagon towards the center. Make sure you leave gaps between the lines as you will paint each triangle or shape with a different color. Do this throughout each hexagon until you are finished and ready to paint. For painting this, we will include both warm and cool colors to practice how to effectively use complementary colors. Complementary colors can seem harsh and hard to look at when used in their unaltered hues, but when you use complementary colors more softly, they can be very interesting. Complementary colors are also known as contrasting colors. These colors lie opposite to each other on the color wheel, so they are farthest away from each other in likeness. So you are asking, how do we make these combinations more subtle or more soft? Think of blue and orange, for instance. Place a vibrant blue next to an equally vibrant orange and they will compete with each other on the intensity scale. When this happens, the contrast is more apparent. Used sparingly, this strong contrast can be effective. But for the most part, pairing a rich blue with a lighter, softer orange can help temper the competition between the two colors. The combination is still striking and powerful, but now it's less abrasive. For this piece, we'll use a balance of highly saturated and more intense warm and cool colors. You'll appreciate the difference compared with their lighter counterparts. For these smaller, tighter shapes, you can use size 1 or 2 round brush. For larger triangles, you can use size 5 or 6 brush. There will be a very little bleeding as there are gaps between the triangles. Don't be in a hurry. Take your time, but stay loose and spontaneous. Study the colors you are using and how they complement and create balance beforehand. This will help you enjoy the flow of the process. You can start the basic shapes from either the top left or top right corner and work way down. Most right-handed artists prefer top left. You may step back from time to time to see which color will suit the shape lower down, but paint in an order. You need to check periodically, does it feel too harsh or too soft? Where are my areas of contrast with light and dark values? With each new piece, you are practicing and building on what you have already learnt to make it better than the last. I had expected to complete the portion of stage 1 in one video, but since I am almost nearing half an hour, I'll stop here itself. And the next part of compound strokes and complex shapes I'll cover in the second part of this stage, that is the next video. So, in this episode, besides revisiting the basics of materials and color theory, we have tried to understand the colors and basic techniques. In this, we have seen how to progressively lighten a single color, wet on wet technique, curves and circles, then added a second color, then made some triangles and an abstract using wet on dry technique. We also did detailed shapes using three colors with their varied values. In the next video, we'll see how to make compound strokes and create complex shapes. I am sure you have got enough ideas to start off and do a lot of practice. This may look very primary, but it's very essential to understand the medium and go into complex shapes and finally make a good painting. So keep practicing, stay safe and healthy. See you.